For 5 years old, not financed, and worth under 130,000 Rand. He's ready. Get the perfect cover for your older car. And remember, Outsurance Essential gets you back on the road quickly because claims are paid in cash within 5 days. Fast-acting, pocket-friendly insurance for older cars. SMS Insure to 40934.
Welcome back. The date for former Zambian President Edgar Lungu's funeral is still yet to be finalized as the dispute between the family and the Zambian government continues. On Tuesday, we heard from the Zambian government, the Minister of Information and Media, Cornelius Moetwa. Tonight, we hear from the family in as far as this impasse is concerned. Remember, the Zambian government approached the court to interdict the funeral of the former president. They want him to be buried in Zambia. Makebi Zulu is the Lungu family spokesperson joining us now in studio. Makebi, thank you so much for making time for us, and condolences to the family on the passing of the former president.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. Condolences to the people of South Africa on the death of the former deputy president, President David Mabuza.
Thank you.
We convey our heartfelt condolences.
We spoke to the Zambian government on Tuesday about this impasse, and they suggested that there was interest from the Zambian government to have negotiations with you as the family to try and find common ground. Have there been any negotiations lately with the government?
Lately, there have not been any negotiations with the government. You may be aware that President Lungu passed on the 5th of June, rather, and from the 5th of June, beginning the 6th of June, we engaged into conversations with the government of the Republic of Zambia.
Yeah.
And most of the things that we would agree on, the government would at some point change their mind about certain issues that were of concern to the family, certain issues that were of concern to the deceased before he died. All those issues were not meeting middle ground somewhere. And just when we thought we had reached middle ground, again there was a part of the government having to change positions from time and time again. So that's a problem that we had in this.
What are you concerned about as the family? Are you against the former president being buried in Zambia, or are you against President Hichilema presiding over the funeral?
Well, at this particular point, it has become very clear that the government of the Republic of Zambia cannot be trusted in this because of the back and forth. It is desirable for the family, for the government of South Africa, and for the government of Zambia that President Edgar Chagwa Lungu be buried in Zambia. But after these conversations and negotiations, we're bringing in mediators from different countries to try and speak to the government and also speak to the family. It has become increasingly apparent that the government cannot be trusted, such that even if we got into negotiations right now, we wonder the sincerity of those negotiations, because we are aware that the moment we step onto Zambian soil, things will change, and the Zambian government will renege on what exactly they'll have undertaken.
What guarantees would you like as a family to be comfortable with allowing the former president to be transported to Zambia for burial?
Well, currently there are no guarantees that we're expecting from the state, especially that you may have noted that the national mourning was supposed to have ended on the 23rd of June, but on the 18th of June, upon that misunderstanding, the president stood and said he had cancelled national mourning and that things will go back to normalcy. As far as the family is concerned, things have gone back to normalcy. Normalcy means the national mourning is not there, and they are free to do as they please privately as a family. But you saw how that a day later, a spokesperson from State House sought to clarify the end of national mourning to say, no, it hasn't ended, it has actually been extended, when in fact it had ended. So all that is showing that these are perhaps untrustworthy people that we're dealing with, and that trust has been broken between the state and the family.
So to be clear, as the family, you are not necessarily against the former president being buried in Zambia?
We're not necessarily against the former president being buried in Zambia, but what is of concern right now is that it will be a mockery for this administration to be the ones to put him rest.
To rest.
Because everything that they have done in the recent past has shown that they can be trusted. And what the family wants is a dignified send-off. A dignified send-off cannot occur in a climate where all the state machinery or indeed the media has been weaponized against the family, making the family look as though they're the villains in all these negotiations, the ones that have been unreasonable. And with that, the picture that it gives is that they don't care about what the family thinks. Yeah. It's a PR stand for the government. It's about the government wanting to look good, not embarrassing themselves in this particular region. The president was on TV saying that if we don't bury President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, it will be an embarrassment. That should not be his concern. His concern is what and how does the family want to have President Edgar Chagwa Lungu buried? What do they consider a dignified way of him being buried? And if the respect is going to be accorded to him in a private manner, by him being buried in South Africa, it shall be so. Even the idea of having gone to court has closed off the avenues of wanting to mediate or negotiate, because we had a couple of opportunities. President Bakili Muluzi was our mediator in this whole thing, and we were having discussions back and forth.
Okay.
And if the government was truthful, they would tell you that things that were agreed between the president and President Bakili Muluzi that were communicated to the family, the president changed his mind later on, and we're not able to get back to where we started from. There have been other presidents, by the way, that have been involved in this process, and this process has failed simply because the government has been changing positions at any given time. And you see, if former presidents and other presidents have been engaged in this, and the trust has been broken, there's no other way that I think the trust can be rebuilt.
The Zambian government, when I had the Minister of Media and Information, I asked him if they are willing to compromise as government to have the former president can be buried in Zambia and President Hichilema doesn't preside over the funeral. And they said that that wouldn't make sense for the president to step aside because heads of state would be coming and they would have to be hosted by the state, and the head of state is President Hichilema.
Yeah, it's not a presidential funeral, it's a state funeral, and the president is not the state. So you see that the very insistence that he should be the one to be there goes against the very wish of the family. And with that being the position of the government, there's no compromise that is going to be reached in all this.
Yeah.
Yes.
What was the relationship like between the former president and President Hichilema? I know there have been questions raised, and I asked the Zambian government about whether or not they assisted. For instance, when he was sick and he needed to travel for his medication, they seemed to suggest that they were always opening up their door and willing to help. I asked about the presidential benefits that were cut off. They said that, well, that's because the former president had decided to re-enter politics, and according to the law in Zambia, once you decide that, you lose all your presidential benefits. What's your side as the family?
You see, sometime in August of 2023, he was still in retirement. He asked to be taken to the hospital, to come for his medical reviews here in South Africa. The government, without giving a reason, denied him that opportunity for medical reviews to come to this place. So you will notice that even the time when he was supposedly or supposed to be enjoying his privileges, all those privileges were denied him. The president could not, the former president could not easily go to a church service. If he went to a church service, the church service was blocked. We had one in Dola where he was stopped from attending a church service. He used to jog routinely as he would. And every time he jogged, obviously there are others that jog in the morning, they'll join him. The government stopped him from jogging. There was a time he had...
Why did they do that? What risk was he posing?
Well, they called it political jogging. Well, obviously, any former president would command some kind of attention in the moment that they do certain things or go in a public place. That is normal. But I thought that was going to be acceptable in view of the fact that he was trying to keep healthy. But that was a threat to the government. And you may have noticed that at some point he was invited for a conference in Korea where he was supposed to speak. He went to the airport, boarded onto an aircraft. They off-boarded him, took out his luggage and said he couldn't travel. The matter is still in court. It was supposed to come up sometime on the 17th of July, but now he's gone. So all that was challenged. Even when it came to the issue of taking away his benefits, they said he got into active politics and they took away his benefits, which included medical or insurance, which he never enjoyed even before they could take those away. Now that all those benefits have been taken away, what's the interest of the state? The interest of the state in this particular is not to impose their will, but simply to ask the family how they would like to mourn the former president and what role as government they can play in all this. If that is agreed and the family is able to say, okay, this is the role that you can play in this, and we accept that he was a president, that is pretty much acceptable. But the government has come with a view that they are entitled to the body of the former president. They've been making those assertions to say it's either we have the body or no deal at all. You don't get into negotiations like that. The understanding of mediation is that let's sit down so that you may agree to repatriate the body. But that's not how you look at things. Yes.
The government seems to believe that public interest trumps the interest of the family and the wishes of the family. In fact, they mention a previous case where apparently the former president, Kenneth Kaunda's family, wanted him to be buried privately, and the former president, Edgar Lungu, is the one who took the family to court because he believed that the state's interest trumped that of Kaunda's, and they're using that as precedent that has been set by the former president himself.
I'll correct that. It's not the president who took the matter to court. It's the family of President Kenneth Kaunda that took the matter to court. It was a judicial review application, an application for leave to commence judicial review, and it failed at that process. So what was not granted is leave for the matter to commence so that it can be ruled on the substance. So there was never an opportunity in that case for the court to deal with the substance of the case. It was an application for leave which was thrown out because they were late in time. So that cannot form a precedent. Even assuming that it was to form a precedent, President Kenneth Kaunda was enjoying all the benefits of the state, which included a state funeral. But if you're going to tell a person to say you're not entitled to all these benefits, and then when they die you say, oh, now you are entitled. I heard him say that posthumously they were giving back those benefits. You don't do it that way. It has to be a proper discussion, a proper compromise between the state and the family. So that authority that they seek to refer to is not an authority for purposes or that would affect the status of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu.
What are you willing to compromise on as the family? I mean, this is a difficult time for you as a family. The last thing you want is to be fighting with especially a government that the former president has served for so long and was part of. What are you willing to compromise on to try and put this matter to bed so that there can be a dignified send-off for the former president?
To start with, the family is not fighting with the government. The government is fighting the family. Fighting the family because they have gotten the issue to be one of propaganda, one of PR, one to avoid embarrassment, and not looking at the interests of the family. Had they, right from the start, I would let you know that on the 6th of January, the president, or rather the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Mr. Haimbe, we had a discussion, and the first question was, are you giving this benefit or this particular national mourning or state funeral as something gratuitous or as attendant to his benefits? He says, well, attendant to his benefits. And the question was, we thought you took those away. We thought you cancelled them by your letter that was written to him in October of 2023. You said he was not entitled to everything that a former president is entitled to. You even went further to close the office of the 6th Republican president and redeployed his staff, took away the security, took away medical insurance, took away everything. What role are you playing in all this? The response from the state was an imposition and not something that should have been negotiated with the family.
Where do you see this ending as the family? Are you just going to fight it over in court? Or are you hoping for a resolution at some point?
You see, we're happy that the matter went to court because now the court will be dealing with the rights of the parties. What are the rights of the family? What are the rights of the state in this? Has the state demonstrated a clear cause of action, clear right that they can demand? If they're saying it is in national interest, President Edgar Chagwa was not enjoying any taxpayers' money at the time of his death. He was not enjoying any benefits from the state. What then, or how then do we treat such a person? Even assuming that he was enjoying those benefits, what is the say of the family? The body always belongs to the family. Never does it belong to the state. And it is the state that has to negotiate, come to a compromise with the family as to how a dignified send-off